Hello, hello. It is Erica with Holy Rustic and Redheaded Princess Designs, and we are here to paint our Halloween BOGO arch. This is our brand new interchangeable kit, and I am super excited to get this painted up. So come in, say hey, let me know how your day is going, how your week has been. The kiddos are back in school around here, and so life is normalish. Normalish, we'll go with that. This is a super cute little interchangeable arch that we added to the website. So this is the Halloween version. It's got this cute little ghosty with the florals, which is super popular right now. And then we also added a rustic looking Santa one as well. And we'll be adding more designs and stuff for this interchangeable. You know, we love a good interchangeable around here. So this is a fun one and I cannot wait to paint it with you. Let me switch my camera around and we will get started. Come in, say hey. Let me know how you're doing, what you've been up to. I feel like summer is over. I know it's not technically over, but once the kids start back to school, it's, summer's done. We are moving on. And so I am ready for all things fall. We have maybe 2 summerish classes left, and then that's it, folks. We are on to pumpkins and ghosts and all the fun fall things. So super excited and ready for that. I'm going to start by just giving this arch piece. We're going to do the arch first, and then we'll work on the interchangeable part. So there are 2 pieces to the arch. There's a window piece that looks like this, and then there is a piece that looks like this, and they're just going to get glued to each other. So I'm going to do this piece in this kind of khaki, I think it's linen is what it is, a folk art linen. We're going to give this a quick base coat here. I'm going to use my sponge to paint the window frame portions, just so I don't get super messy with my paint and push a bunch of paint down where I don't want it. So I'm just going to use the sponge to sponge this on. I had every intention of going live last week to paint this with you guys, and it was Thursday was our first day back to school for my youngest kiddo, Oliver. He's our last one left in school. He's a big old high schooler this year. So that was Thursday, and then Friday I went up to sit with my grandma for a little bit. We made some zucchini bread. So I didn't get on here last week like I had intended, but that's okay. We are here today, and hopefully after today we'll get back to somewhat of a normal schedule. If you're local to the Southern Indiana, Louisville, Kentucky area, we do have lots and lots of fun fall classes coming up. So go check out our class schedule and save your spots. Something new that we're going to be doing is 24 hours before the class begins, we are going to be closing the registration for that class if it has not already sold out. Now, with that being said, I will tell you, most of our fall classes and our Christmas classes do tend to fill up. So if there's one you're really interested in, go ahead and save your spot. Don't wait until the last minute. But over the summer, we've had a lot of people waiting until hours before the class starts. And then it's disappointing for you when I have to tell you that I can't squeeze you in. So we do prep all of our class supplies and stuff. We trace out all the canvases. And if it's a wood cutout, I have to get those cut. And so unfortunately, if we're talking, 4 or 5 hours before the class starts, I may have already prepped the materials and I may not be able to prep anymore. So in order to prevent that disappointment, we're just going to start saying that class is closed 24 hours at a minimum. before the class starts. Now, our classes at the Clarksville Parks Department usually close a week in advance. And that's just because they take care of those registrations and they've got to get me the numbers. And then, like I said, during the holiday seasons, the fall and the Christmas, a lot of times those classes will fill up and sell out much sooner than 24 hours. So if there's one that you're really looking at that you really want to come to, just be sure you grab your seats before it fills up. All right, so I gave that a quick base coat of the linen color. I'm not too worried about the bottom down here because most of that's going to be covered with the interchangeable. And I am going to do just a quick dry brushing on this of a little bit of a darker color. So I'm going to grab a chip brush here. Let me spin this around and see if I can find me a chip brush. Actually, this guy will work. This is just a tiny little 1/2-inch chip brush, and chip brushes are just like those cheapo paint brushes. And what's going on? There we go. Oh my goodness. Cheap little brushes that you can buy at like, they have them at the dollar store, but like the hardware stores and stuff in the paint section. They usually have wooden handles and they're not really great for actually painting things. What are we doing with the internet here? Hang on. Up. Okay, I'm gonna keep an eye on that and see what happens. So I'm gonna take this chip brush, I'm gonna dip into a little bit of my dark brown, and then I'm just gonna kind of tap off over here on the side of my table to get most of that paint off. I don't want a ton of paint on there. It's probably still too much. I'm gonna get most of that paint off there, and I love that the bristles are all crazy like this because that's gonna help with our dry brushing. And we're gonna go with the direction of the window frame. So I'm going back and forth across these horizontal pieces here, up and down on my vertical sections. I'm going to follow this arch around right through here. And you'll see I'm not getting a ton of paint off, but I am getting a little bit. And then we'll just kind of go both directions down here at the bottom. So we'll go back and forth and we'll go up and down a little bit. And I can come back over here and pick up a little bit more paint if I want. Just give this a little bit of a distressed look, which is why I wasn't so worried about how blotchy that looks down there at the bottom, because again, we're going to do a little distressing and most of it's going to be covered with our interchangeable piece. All right, so there is part one of our window frame. We've got another piece to do. We're going to set that over to the side. Here's our other arch piece. So we'll get that one painted up real quick as well. Just a light coat of that linen from Folk Art. Now, if you don't like the distressed look and you want a more clean look, you could do this in just a simple white. It would look really pretty too with like a white with a black distressed look. I think with the way that the pieces look, because they're kind of rustic-y looking, the distressing is going to look really cute with those pieces. This is our BOGO for the month, so if you're new here, we always do a buy one, get one free. Each month we allow our VIP members to vote on that inside of our Facebook group. And this is what won this month by a landslide, let me just say. And so you can buy 2 of these and get one free. And the idea is that maybe you have a little girls' night in at home, little paint night, date night type thing. And you know, just a little fun at home where you can paint with someone in your house. You know, if you're not local to us and can't do the paint parties, or maybe you, you know, just want to do something at home, you could also just paint 2 yourself. You know, buy 2, put them in 2 different sections of your house, or paint one for a friend, paint one to take to the office and set up as your office decor, whatever. However you want to do it, you can buy 2 and get one free this month only. So that's good through the end of the month. And you're going to use the code GHOST, BOGO, B-O-G-O, all one word. You're going to put 2 of these in your cart and then you're going to check out. Please note The system can only take one coupon at a time. That's just the way our website works. So if you're, you know, trying to use another discount as well, that's not going to work for you. So you may need to check out a couple of times if you're trying to get, you know, multiple things besides just the arch. So just do the arches and then you can come back and add your other discount codes if you want. Our club boxes have begun shipping out. So all of our, they always ship out by the 15th of each month. All of our DIY Kit of the Month boxes have shipped out, except for anybody whose payments haven't processed yet. And then our Wagon Club boxes have already started shipping as well. I am finishing cutting the rest of the tiered tray boxes today, and those will start going out either today or tomorrow. I've got a kids class to prep for today, so I don't know if I'm going to get them out today. I've got most everything ready for them, so we'll just see how the day goes. All right, so we gave that a quick coat of the linen, and we're going to take that chip brush. We're going to grab a little bit of that brown, and we're just going to give this a quick little distressed as well, following the direction that the pieces go. So left to right on these crossbars, vertical up here. This bottom part's not going to matter as much, but we'll just give it a little distressing just for funsies. Now this piece is what's going to show more so than the piece we did before. So if you do that back piece first, gives you a chance to kind of practice and see what you like. And then you can come back and do this piece because this one is the one that goes in the front. So they're going to get glued together just like so. How stinking cute is that? I love it. All right. I am going to, do I want to go ahead and glue these together? I think maybe I do. And I have some glue here and it seems like it's all dried up. Let's see if I can find a stabby thing. Should be right here somewhere. Nope, that's a paintbrush. Well, that's not going to work. Looking for stabby tool. I thought I had one right here, and now, of course, I do not see it. Y'all, if you could see my extremely large collection of paintbrushes, it's a little insane. And I love me a new paintbrush. They're, you know, I just bought some new ones at the store the other day, too. I don't even know where they are, actually. I don't think I've opened them yet. Not that I needed any new brushes, but oh, there's something about this having a new brush. Okay, I'm not seeing my, oh, here it is. Stabby tool. All right, let's see if we can get this glue to work. I've got lots of little bottles of glue here that just have dibbles in them, and I just want to use them up. I don't know if that's going to work for me. All right, we're going to do this the hard way. May or may not be a good idea. I'm going to clip off the bottom of the glue. So all of our kits do come with a glue. We send you either an E6000 or a B7000. It's basically the same thing. It's just the off-brand of the E6000. Just remember, these glues are not quick dry glues. They are not a super glue. You're going to have some time to be able to move your pieces around, and you want to be sure that you let your pieces lay flat for 24 hours before you set them up. In about 30 minutes, they're going to seem like they're glued together, but I promise you they are not. And always with glue, think back to when you were in preschool or kindergarten, just a dot, not a lot. And we're going to just glue this puppy down. If it's bowing on you a little bit, you can take some painter's tape and just tape the edges down. I think this is just fine. So I'm not worried about that. We're going to just glue that piece. So I glued the arch piece that doesn't have as many window frames to the one that has the excess window frames. Okay, so there is that. We're going to set that over to the side. Let's go ahead and paint up the base real quick as well so it can be drying. So the base for that window arch is one big piece that has no holes and two pieces that have 1, 2, 3, 4 holes. And we're just going to paint all these up and we're going to glue them together like a sandwich. Super easy peasy. I'm just going to make them dark brown because it's not really going to matter. These are just a base piece. So we're just going to do a quick coat of dark brown here. And I've got some water in my brown, which is fine for me. It kind of makes it more like a stain. And I'm okay with that look. We're not going to worry too much about what this looks like because it's just to hold it up. It's not the star of the show. It's just to make sure our arch will stand up. We'll just paint that bottom up. I only need to paint one of these other pieces here because I'm going to sandwich them together. So the one in the middle, we're not going to see it all. So we're just going to paint this guy up real quick. I am going to be careful not to push a bunch of paint down in the grooves here because I do want to be sure that my pieces are going to fit. And so if I get a bunch of paint in there, they may not fit correctly. So just be aware of that when you're painting. If you tend to load your brush pretty heavily or you haven't quite mastered the way to pull the brush across to not push paint down in your grooves, then you might want to do this part with a sponge. I kind of have figured out an angle to hold my brush and I just kind of pull it straight across and that keeps me from pushing too much paint down inside of there. If you go to fit it together and you realize that you got a bunch of paint in there, just take a little nail file and just kind of file some of that paint off. Sand it down. It'll be fun. It's never the end of the world. This is just paint, y'all. There is tons of things in life to stress about. Painting, not a stressful thing. So don't stress about the paint. All right, we're going to put the glue on the one we did not paint first. All right, with our very janky glue here that I have cut open. I just don't want to waste this glue. It's so expensive. I don't want to waste it. And remember, we don't need a ton of glue, so I'm just kind of spreading that around. I want to, again, make sure I don't get glue down in those grooves. And we're going to put this piece on top of this piece. Just kind of make sure your holes line up. Make sure the edges are all flush. And then we're going to glue these two pieces to our base here. So I'm just going to put some more glue. If you're a heavy-handed gluer, you may find that the bottle of glue that we sent you is not enough. I promise that it really is enough, but if you like a lot of glue, you may want to grab you a bottle of wood glue, or you can buy one of the big things like E6000 at one of the craft stores or whatever. This doesn't matter which way we put it because it's just a plain old rectangle. I'm just trying to center it a little bit there, and then I'm just going to press it down. You could let this set underneath some books or something if it's not flush for you. This looks pretty good, so we're just going to set that over to the side, and we're going to grab our interchangeable pieces here. Ooh, look at that. All right, now comes the fun part. That was the not fun part. Now I need to do the fun things. All right, so we've got our ghost. This has lots and lots of little tiny pieces. So just be aware, be cautious as you open it, and just be a little mindful of that because there are lots and lots of little pieces in here. We're going to start with our biggest piece first, which is going to be our house piece. I want to paint that one up first. Okay, I'm going to move all our little flowers over to the side. Lots of flowers. Okay, so for the house, let's just give the whole thing a coat of like a white with a little bit of that khaki in it, okay? I don't want it to be super white, but I also don't want it to be the exact same color as my frame. So I'm going to take a little bit of white and just kind of mix it with that linen color. So I have just a nice light color. And I want to make sure I'm using a light coat because I do want some of these etched lines to show through. I don't want to paint the whole thing with a sponge, I don't think. Let's see how this does. I may paint the whole thing with a sponge. I think I'm going to. All right. To the sponge. Because here's what's going to happen. That paintbrush is going to push paint down in those grooves. And I really want to be able to see them. Because I want it to, it's going to give my house, my little haunted house here, some dimension and some texture. So I don't want to push a bunch of paint down in there. So I'm not going to worry about the windows and the doors so much because we're going to paint those other colors. So I'm just going to get close-ish to them, and I don't have to cover them completely with this color. I'm more worried about the body of our house here. Okay, again, the roof line here, we're going to paint that a different color here in a hot second. So we're just worried about the body of the house. And we're just mixing a little bit of white with that khaki linen color. So we just kind of have a softer off-white color for our house. And I'm just sponging it on. Normally I would not paint a section this large with the sponge because it can be harder to clean up those little sponge lines, I guess. But I want to see all those little, these wavy grooves that kind of give our house some dimension. I want to see some of those. And so if I use the paintbrush, I'm going to push a bunch of paint down into those lines. And I don't want to do that. So we're just going to sponge this on. If I had baby wipes here, we could paint it with a baby wipe and that would probably work really well. But I don't have any in here, so this is what we're doing. All right, my first coat has dried, so I'm just kind of coming back around and touching up where I need to touch up. I'm not going to go for a super heavy coat on this. I kind of like some of that original wood shining through. I think it's giving it a nice color there. And so I don't have to go for a super, I don't need a super solid white house. Okay, if you want it to be super white, you're going to have to do a couple coats. But I kind of like the way it's looking with a little bit of that original, the wood color kind of shining through. I think it's giving it kind of that rustic-y feel. Just kind of coming back through, making sure I don't have any little lines from my sponge. Giving everything another little quick little dab here and there where I need to, where maybe the paint's not as thick. And I'm kind of liking the way that looks. So I think we might be good. We kind of, our camera has frozen again. There it is. I don't know what's going on with that, y'all. I even turned off the Wi-Fi, which sometimes can be the issue. And I have it on Do Not Disturb. So I don't know why it's being difficult today. I apologize. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. It does look a little blotchy on the camera screen, but I think that's just where some of the paint is drying and some of it's not. Here, when I'm looking at it, it looks like a nice even coat of paint. So I think we're okay there. All right, we're going to take our brush and we're going to paint inside of these doors and windows with a darker brown. So I'm going to take a little bit of my dark brown and a little bit of that white and kind of mix it together. Now I'm going to add just a tinge of black in there as well. Now, if mixing the colors stresses you out, just use the color straight out of the bottle. It's fine. But I'm just mixing a little bit of that dark brown with a little bit of black just to get a kind of darker brown color here. And we're going to paint basically wherever the window frames are going to go, we're going to paint that. with this dark color. So I'm just following my etched lines. These are all going to have pieces that go over them like so. So it doesn't matter if I get right up next to that line. It's almost better to err on not going over the line than getting right up next to it. Okay, because some of it's going to be covered with the frame. So if you're nervous, just err on being a little bit further away from it. You can't, I mean, you do have to get pretty close, but those frames are fairly chunky, so they should be okay. And I got a little bit out of the lines there, but I think it's going to be fine. I am not going to stress about that. All right, let's do our little door here. And this door frame is also not as thick as I thought it was. Okay. So the door we need to get right up next to the line. So I'm going to add a little bit of water to my paint and just very carefully come right up next to my line. If I add a little bit of water, it kind of helps just float the paint right over to those etched lines. And while those lines aren't super deep, they're deep enough that they almost stop the paint. If your paint is a little bit thinner, it's almost like the paint knows just to fill right over to that edge. I do want to kind of try to mimic the door here. So I'm kind of pulling my paint up and down and then left and right across the panels in the door to just give us a little bit of dimension. It doesn't make a ton of difference, but it is going to help a little bit just kind of with your brush strokes. A little bit more paint. We're coming right up next to that etched line. Up as far as we dare to go, and then come back down. This would be really great if you have a nice angle brush. Would be really great for getting in these little corners. I am using this round brush, which maybe not be the best brush to do this with, but it's what I have in my hand, so it's what we're going with. All right, and we're just going to pull back across here and then kind of pull across the panels with our brush strokes, and that's looking pretty good. It's a little shaky, but it's not bad. I think it's going to be fine once we add the panel on there. And if we put the panel on and we decide it looks awful, we can come back and touch it up. No big deal. All right, I'm going to do this window here. There we go. I thinned that paint out a little bit too much, so I'm going to grab a little more regular paint and just that's going to need a second coat because it is definitely not as dark as that one over there now. All right, we're going to flip it around and we're going to do this one up here. All right, and let's come back down here and brush just a little bit of that darker color kind of in the middle of this one. All right, I think those are looking pretty good. What do we want to do now? Let's do our moon. So this is the moon, and we're going to paint it with kind of a golden yellow color, hopefully. Let's see if there's any paint in here. Oh, there's some clumps of paint. see how this does. Now, this yellow is pretty bright, and we're kind of going for a more muted look. So what we're going to do, we're going to give this a coat of this bright yellow, and then we'll come back and touch it up and make it a little bit lighter. I'm going to add a little bit of white to the yellow just so that I have a nice base of yellow. Yellow is very translucent. And so a lot of times when I'm painting with yellow, I'll throw a little white in the first layer, and that just gives it a little more grab, a little more body and base, and it makes that second coat go on a little bit better. And that way I don't have to do 9,000 coats of yellow paint. Just remember, when you paint round things, you want round brush strokes. So even though your brush strokes, you can't, hopefully you can't really see them too much when you're done, they really do make a difference in what your painting object, the shape of it, what it's going to look like. So round brush strokes on round things. There's our moon. We're going to come back and touch him up. I know he's really bright right now, and I don't love that, but we're going to come back to him. All right, I'm going to rinse that brush out again. I'm going to take a little bit of my dark brown. I want a nice light color for my roof lines and all of my window frames and stuff. So I'm going to take my brown and a little bit of my linen color here. We're going to mix that together and just get a little bit of a lighter brown for our roof. So brown, you could do white too, but I kind of like that linen color, and I'm just coming up with a nice color, and I'm going to use my sponge. We're going to sponge that on. So we're going to paint this roof line here. It comes at a diagonal, so I'm just going to kind of take the edge of my sponge and come up. Whoop. That was really loud. All right, and we're going to paint this roof line in right through here, and this is your house. So if you don't like this color, go with something else. Do a gray and a white, or you could get real crazy with the colors and make it a super bright, fun, colorful haunted house with like the pinks and the purples and stuff. It's yours. Do what you want. And you're buying one, get one free. You could paint one more of the rustic-y way and one not. That would be fun. All right. I kind of like that. We're gonna do all of our window frames and stuff with this color as well. So let's just do those real quick like. While we've got this on our sponge here. All right, there's our door frame. Here's our roof piece. You will see, because I mixed that color, it's not I didn't like 100% mix it up. I like to do that when I mix colors up because I feel like it gives a little bit more depth in your painting without a whole lot of effort. We do that even when we do canvas paintings. A lot of times I'll just kind of dip into one color and then dip into another color. And it's just giving you a little bit more depth. It's kind of letting the colors do whatever they feel like doing, Maybe they're lighter in one spot and darker in another. It's just like an instant way to add a little bit of depth to your piece. All right, so there's that. We've got the round window. I told you this one has a lot of pieces. It really does. Lots and lots of pieces. And then there's this piece, which is our top of our roof line. And then two more. This triangle here. Oh, get over there. And this window. Okay, now I'm going to take that same sponge without clipping it. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that dark brown, And I'm going to come around and just give these pieces a little bit of depth. So I'm going to come right around this roof line, and I'm just barely tapping on the edge of the piece, just with the edge of my sponge, just lightly tapping. I don't have a ton of paint on here. I just want a little bit of depth. This is supposed to look like an old, spooky, creaky house. So I want just a little bit of shadow and dimension on here. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. There we go. So see, it's just got a little bit of a shadow there. I'm gonna even try and pull that on this base here, just real lightly across that roof. Okay. I promise you it makes more difference in real life than it is on the camera. Sometimes the camera is slow to pick up on some of those colors, and it's nothing too shocking. It's just the slightest little bit of a shadow around these pieces. We're not getting real crazy here, but we want to add just a little bit. It does in the end give your piece just a little more dimension. If this feels intimidating to you, you could not do it, but I always encourage you to remember it's just paint. And the worst thing that happens is you do it and you hate it and you let it dry and you paint back over top of it. That is not the end of the world. Okay, I'm just doing it on the outside edge of all these little window frames, all these little door frames and door jambs. We're just going to do it on the outside edge of all these pieces. And it's just black with a little bit of brown. So it's not straight black paint. I don't want this to be super intense. I just want a little shadow here. All right, that one got a lot of shadow. That's okay. I'm okay with that. It's okay. That one also got a lot of shadow. I don't know if I love that. Okay, so if I don't love it, I can come back to my original color, which was that tan with a little bit of brown, and just right in that little space, just kind of fix them up. Where are we at? Oh, there we are again. Okay, I feel like these need some work. I'm seeing a lot of brush strokes there, and I don't love that. So we're going to try the sponge. It's going to be harder to do, but we're going to see if we can get it to work. I just want to hide some more of those brush strokes. I feel like I'm seeing a lot of, probably because I watered that paint down too much, and I'm seeing a ton of brush strokes. So I don't want to see all those brush strokes. So we're just going to tappy tap with our sponge. More in the middles here because that's the part that I'm really going to see once I put all my frames and stuff on there. That looks so much better. So much better. What do we think? Yes, yes. Okay. Let's work on this moon here. And you know what? I'm going to take a little bit of this color and I'm going to come down the side of my house here on both sides. And I could even drag it and just get a nice soft little shadow around the edge. Okay, nothing too crazy. Just a nice little soft shadow there. All right, let's work on this moon. Let's fix him up. I want to add a tiny bit of orange in there, I think. Let's see. I want this. Yeah. There we go. All right, we're going to put a little brown in there as well. So a little orange, a little brown. I just want to tone that down. I don't want this to be like super bright moon. That is the color I want. Okay, so I'm throwing just a tiny bit of orange in with my yellow, and then a tiny bit of brown. I know y'all are probably like, what in the heck, Erica? And I think I want a bigger brush for this because I'm seeing a lot of brush strokes. Anytime you're seeing a ton of brush strokes, probably means your brush is not big enough. These brushes need some love. They have seen better days. All right, right up next to that edge of our roof, right up through here. Just mixing a little bit of that yellow and the orange. I don't want this to be too orange because I don't want it to take away from my pumpkins, but I do not want it to be super bright yellow either. Got a little paint booger there. Y'all are really quiet today. I'm hoping that does not mean that we're not doing what we need to be, that it's connected. I have no way of checking because I am on basically all the devices that I have in this room are connected to things. All right, there, I like that color. That looks really good. Okay, so there's our house. Let's just go ahead and glue our pieces to our house real quick. Just because there's so many pieces here, and if I can get some of these out of the way, I think I'll feel a little less overwhelmed. So we're going to do our roof line, and we're using our crazy glue here. Just a dot, not a lot. We don't want glue seeping out from underneath everything. This piece is going to go right here. I also think by gluing these on, it's going to help me be a little more okay with the way this is looking. It looks a little rough right this second because there are pieces that aren't painted and lines that aren't perfectly matched up. And so I think by gluing some of these pieces on, it's gonna help me know it's okay. Trust the process here. Okay, there's that piece. I'm a little worried. No, I think these are fine. I was a little worried for a hot second that these were not, there wasn't enough difference in the shades of brown here, but I think we're good. So we're going to do this little window. Come on, glue. Cooperate. There's our little baby window. And see, even though we went over the edges a little bit, it's fine. Because that frame hides it. There's one thing I really love about our kits is because it's, you know, each piece is its own thing. Sometimes it makes it so easy to paint these up, and you don't have to be super perfect with them. And I always remind myself, life is not perfect, and so there's beauty in the imperfections. I got a lot of glue on that one, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this other piece and just kind of smoosh them together and kind of see if I can get enough glue on both pieces to glue both of these down at the same time, because we don't want, if you have a bunch of glue, it's going to push out from underneath of it and it's going to look messy. We don't want that. All right, here's our door frame. Yep. I do see that there are people on, and it's possible that your comments aren't coming through. If you have questions or comments, feel free to drop them and I will answer them when after we're done. Sometimes Facebook does weird things and I can't see comments and stuff. I did not paint down here at the bottom because that piece goes inside of our stand. So I wasn't worried about that. Lots of you have already purchased this, and I cannot wait to see how yours turns out. I think it's going to be so stinking cute. And I'm curious to see if anybody goes rogue and does their own thing. All right, so we put that little rectangle down there and that little triangle up there. It just gives that little door a little more dimension. I am going to flip this around, and I am just going to brush just a little bit of paint down here, because now that I've said that, I'm just a little worried that that might show just a smidge, and I just want to be sure it's painted if it does show. So we're just gonna, it's a darker color. I'm fine with it. It's fine. It's most likely not going to show, but I was just a little concerned. Okay, I think this looks amazing. So we're gonna set this to the side over there, and we're gonna work on our little ghosty. Actually, yeah, we'll set them over there for a minute. Some of these pieces do get glued onto that base house, but we will figure that out as we go. Let's do our ghost next. I do want these to be pretty white, so we're gonna clip our sponge, and I'm just gonna take my scissors and clip straight across so that I can use this for my white. I'm gonna make sure I've got some nice clean white paint here, and we're gonna give these ghosts a little coat of white with our sponge. We're gonna need a couple coats, so we'll just do one. It's better to do thin coats than to try to cram all the paint on here at one time. Okay, couple of thin coats, much better than trying to glob it all on at one time. A lot of times people are like, it's not covering, and then they try to just put a whole bunch of paint on there. Not only is it going to take forever to dry, you're also going to push a bunch of paint down into those etched lines, and then it's going to look messy and you're not going to like it. So just do thin coats. It's okay. That paint dries pretty quick on this wood. The wood really soaks up the paint, so it's fine to do a couple of thin coats. It's not going to take you very long. So we're painting 3 ghosts, one very big one and 2 little baby ghosts. We're just painting all of these white. I'm looking at our inspiration photo here. It appears that we also have some white flowers. So I'm going to go ahead and pick those out and paint them as well. And what I'm going to do for my flowers, I'm going to take a piece of painter's tape here, and I'm going to fold the ends over like so, and then just stick this to my table. And I'm going to find my flowers that I want to paint white. So I'm going to do these little guys here. And there are 3 of them. And we'll paint those white. There should be more of them. Where are they at? Here's some more. 4, 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 5 white flowers. You could make your flowers whatever colors you want. Don't stress about the flowers. All right, we'll come back to our ghosts. Give them another coat of white, and you'll see how much that second coat really brightens them up. They may need 3 coats. We want them to be pretty bright. I've got yellow in that white, and I'm trying to not get it on my ghost. I just need to pull more white paint out. All right, grab some more white. Another coat of white on our flowers. Okay, and those are I'm gonna give them a second coat, but I'm gonna set them over there for just a second, let them dry. Let's go ahead and pull some tape and paint up our bats. So we have 2 bats here, and we're gonna make these kind of a dark gray color. I should have grabbed some more sponges from the other room. I've got some little chunks here, so I guess we're going to be using those. I'm going to make these just kind of a dark gray. I don't really want anything on this piece to be super in your face black. So I'm going to take black and a little bit of white and just make a nice dark gray. And we're going to come in and paint these bats. So it's almost black, but not quite. It's almost black. I don't want it to be, this is kind of a soft vibes that we're going for, so I don't want it to be too bright. All right, what else should we do? Let's do our other flowers. I'm just gonna put these like flowers together here. There's about 3 different types of flowers. So we're gonna put those together, and let's do these in kind of that yellow color that we used for our moon, the yellowy orange. Maybe, there we go. Nice and soft, not too bright. It does still have a little bit of that brown in there, which I love. It's just kind of a golden, yellowy color. Okay. And then we're going to grab another little bit of piece of tape. I'm telling you, for these tiny pieces, this tape is your friend because it keeps them from bouncing all over and you getting a ton of paint on your fingers. We're going to grab these guys here. I'm going to do these in kind of an orange, almost that same orange we're going to do our pumpkins in. And while I'm at it, I'm just going to put some centers. These flowers have lots of different centers, and they're kind of a pain because they're pretty tiny. So just use what you have, and then the rest of them, we can just put dots on them. Okay. Just use whatever centers you have, and then we'll put some dots on for the other ones. All right, we're going to grab a little bit of that orange that we're going to use for our pumpkins. And we're going to come in and do these flowers. Do want to mute that orange just a little bit. So I'm going to put a tiny bit of brown in there as well. Kind of notice it's kind of the theme. We're kind of muting all these colors down just a little bit so nothing is super bright. The only thing we're doing really, really bright is the white ghost. Everything else is kind of getting a softer kind of vibe. All right, I like that. Those look good. So that's our flowers and our bats. While we've got that orange, let's just go ahead and do these little pumpkin guys here. So these are our baby pumpkins. There are 3 of them. These are the ones that are going to go on the house, and then one of them goes down by the ghost. And I'm mixing just the tiniest bit of brown in with that orange and giving these guys just a quick base coat. You'll notice I'm going over their faces. We're going to come back and touch their faces up here in a moment. Okay, those look pretty good. And we can even do our big pumpkin guy as well. I've got this ridiculous piece of a sponge, but it's going to work, so we're just going to go with it. Now this big guy may need 2 coats of paint. I think those little ones look pretty good the way they are, but he may need another coat. And somehow I picked up white in that orange, which I did not want to do. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. I'm going to do the bottom just in case a little bit of that ends up peeking through when we put all that together. Let's give these guys another coat while we're here. I know I said they probably didn't need it, but we're just going to, they're dry. Let's just do it. Okay. Now, orange flowers one more time. And let's see if he's almost dry. Give him another coat as well. Orange with a little bit of brown mixed in just to soften it. All right, I do want to give these pumpkins a little bit of dimension. So I'm going to grab a little bit more brown. My hair is falling down. A little bit more brown than we have been using. I'm going to come around the edge, just like we did on the house. All the way around the edge. Soft, 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 light, light touches. Super light touches. And then I'm also we're going to try. I probably should do this with a brush. I should do this with a brush. It would be much easier. I don't need to make my life more difficult. Let's grab a brush. This one will work. So I've got a round brush. I'm going to get it damp. I'm going to grab a little bit of my brown and my orange mixture. And I'm going to pull on these pumpkin veins. So just very lightly. Super, super light pressure. Making sure I'm using that water to kind of float the paint so that it's not, I don't want it to be super intense. I don't want it to look like I outlined it. I just want it to look like there's some shadow there. Okay, and if you get too much, you can come back with your original color and in the in-between spaces. Okay, I'm not going to do this to the little pumpkins because they're not going to matter as much. But I think this big guy could use just a little dimension. Just makes them look a little bit extra. This part scares you, try it. If you hate it, you can let it dry. You can paint over top of it. It is not the end of the world. All right, we've got to do our pumpkin stems. So we're going to grab just brown and we'll just brush that on. There he is. I'll show you closer when he dries so you can see kind of what that looks like. We're going to do all these little guys. And then we need to do their little faces. So we need a tiny brush. Tiny brush. And we're going to paint in their little faces. We're going to use brown and some black. Kind of like we did for our windows. If you have a paint pen, you could do this with a paint pen. If you feel like you don't have a super steady hand. And you can add just a little bit of water to your paint. That's going to help. You want that paint to be about the consistency of ink, and it'll just move on you so much easier. If you're having to really drag the paint and it's not just kind of like flowing off your brush when you're doing these tiny little details, then you probably need to thin it out a little bit, especially if you've been sitting here painting for a while. A lot of times our paint starts to get thick, and then we come to the end where we're doing all the fine little baby details and we're wondering why we're having trouble. So add a couple drops of water and that will help make your life a little bit easier. If you're pulling your brush and your paint's kind of dragging, it's probably gotten thick on you and you just need to add a little water to it. We're just pulling right up next to those etched lines. And because my paint is a little bit thinner, as I come up next to them, my paint just kind of stops where it's supposed to. And I'm using black and a little bit of brown. Remember, we're not doing anything on this piece other than our ghosties in a super bright color. We want those kind of soft, muted colors. This is almost dry. So you can kind of see how floating that paint just gives it a little bit of dimension there. Just a little. And then, like I said, if this is intimidating or you have a shaky hand, you could always use a paint pen. That's okay too. That's not cheating. That's called using your resources. Okay. And that is okay. Anybody who tells you using a paint pen is cheating, well, tell them to go away. We don't need that negativity in our lives. All right, I got a little much water in that paint. So I'm just going to be careful not to tip that while that starts to dry. And I may have to come back and give it another coat. We'll see what it looks like. It may be too watery. I may decide I really like it. Who knows? Who knows? All right, let's do his mouth. My hands are really shaky today. I don't know why. Deep breath. Okay. And then turn your pieces so it makes sense for you when you're painting. You don't have to sit here and paint everything exactly straight. Turn it so that it's, you know, it's easier for you. There is nothing wrong with that. Work smarter, not harder, right? This bottom is pretty thin, and it's the paint's the bottom layer is shining through because I added maybe just a smidge too much water to that, but I think I might kind of like it. We're gonna see what it looks like when it dries. He's pretty cute. He's pretty cute. Okay, put him over there. Our ghosties need another coat. And I kind of wonder if I should brush it on. We're gonna try that. We're gonna get some white because the sponge just does not put down a lot of paint at one time. And I really want these ghosts to be nice and white. So we're gonna grab our brush. And we're gonna brush on this white and see what we think of that. Really should use a bigger brush. There's some etched lines down here at the bottom, which is why I didn't brush it on the first time. But I do think in order to get a brighter coverage of the white, that the brush is going to be better. And I can come back and, you know, put some etched lines on, not etched lines, but I can come back and brush in some movement lines if I want down there at the bottom. I am still doing a pretty thin coat, and I'm being careful around his mouth and his eyeballs to not push a bunch of paint into that space. I think that looks much, much better. Okay, let's do these little baby guys. Ghosts are hard because we do really want them to be pretty, pretty white looking. And sometimes that's hard to get because it's just going to take a couple of coats to get a nice bright white color. But I do like that much better than I did the sponge. It may, and maybe another coat with the sponge would have been fine too. But there we go. Those are much better. All right, we need some green for our greenery. We've got 3 different pieces of greenery here. let's grab our green. We're going to use our sponge. We're going to sponge our green on. And I was afraid of the green's obviously pretty light colored, so that's okay. We're going to do one coat and then we'll come back and we'll add a second coat with just muting that down a little bit with some brown. I don't want this greenery to be what attracts our eyes when we're looking at this. All right, so we're going to do one coat and then we're going to pick up a little bit of brown, mix it in, and come back and do a softer second coat. First coat dries pretty fast. Are we frozen again? I don't know why I have no idea why it's doing that today. No idea. I feel like that green needs to be a touch darker. Well, I don't like that color. I used the sponge that had the white on it, and I think that was my mistake here. I should have just clipped it, and that way I wouldn't have gotten so much white in that first base coat of the green. I think it just became too light colored, and then, you know, I didn't really want that. I want this nice, soft, kind of muted green. Okay, where are we at? What do we have left? I want a little shadow on my ghosties. So let's just use this little piece of sponge, a little bit of our black brown again, and let's just come around the edge of our ghosts, just to give them a little dimension. Kind of makes them pop a little bit more when they're standing up where they're supposed to be. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Which is not in my lap. All right, there we go. I want to do the same. I feel like, did I do it to the pumpkins? I feel like I did, but maybe I didn't. Maybe I did it in my head. I'm going to do the outside edge of these pumpkins. If I did it, we're just going to do it again because I want it to be a little bit more intense. And I feel like right now I can't tell that I did it if I did. I think I did this one. I do kind of like the way his mouth looks. I feel like it needs another coat on this big guy. So we're going to do that real quick. But I do kind of like the way it looks. I'm going to just, on some of these leaves, just brush a little bit of this dark. Not even brush it, just sponge it. Just in a few spots. Not kind of going around the whole thing. Just kind of barely touching the sponge to some of these leaves just to give them a little bit of dimension, a little bit of character. We do that even on our flowers, real lightly. Just kind of around the edges here. Be careful, you don't want to get too carried away, but I think it just adds a little dimension to things, and we'll come around the outside edge of this guy too. So you'll see, I haven't even reloaded the sponge. So there's not very much paint on here at all. We're just barely brushing a little bit of paint on here just to give us the slightest bit of a shadow. I'm gonna go across the bottom here. I want to pull up a little bit on my pumpkin at the bottom as well. Okay, and let's do his mouth, and then I think we might be ready to glue. What are we thinking? Are y'all still hanging in with me? I know we've been here a long time. It's an hour and 10 minutes in, but this piece, it has a lot of pieces, and I really love it, so I wanted to take my time. Life's been a little lifey this week, so I needed this kind of break. Just enjoy painting with you all. So thank you for hanging out with me and painting with me today. I appreciate it. All right. I need to dry this because it's a little wet, and so the paint is pulling back off of it. So we'll give this a dry, and then I think we're ready to glue all of these pieces together and set everything up and see what it looks like. I'm so excited. I'm not worried about the little guys. They look pretty good because they're so small you can't really tell. But this guy, because he's a little bit bigger, you can kind of see the brush strokes and stuff a little bit more in his mouth and his eyes. So that's why we're just giving him another quick coat. And I'm just going to drag ever so lightly with my brush around on him to give him a little dimension. I really feel like I want to do it on my ghost, and I think I might regret this, but we're going to do it anyway. I think I might regret this, she says, as she just goes for it. I just, down here where his etched lines are, where his sheet is like folded, I feel like he just needs a little. I'm just using very light hand, and I have like hardly no paint on my brush, just so that he has a little dimension. I don't want to, we worked so hard to get him so perfectly white. I don't want to cover that up, but I feel like he needs just a little shape. Needs a little shaping. All right. Okay, I need to stop. Stop. All right, let's grab the house piece. No. Let's do the ghost and the pumpkin first. These get some of these. There's still a bunch of glue in here I'm trying to get out. These get some of the leaves. So the pumpkin gets the set of leaves that is more branchy looking, if that makes sense. I don't know. Words are hard today, y'all. I'm just going to put some glue back here. And this piece goes down at the bottom of our pumpkin. Right? Yep. Right there. Does it go? I think it just sets right where that's going to go into the frame part. Into your little holes. And then he gets this bigger lily pad looking leaf. It's going to go up here on the top, like so. All right, our ghost guy gets the other set of leaves. So it's got the 3 bigger leaves and then the 2 viney looking pieces that come off of it. That's going to go kind of in his middle, almost like he's holding it. All right, and how do we want it to go? I think I want it to go up where the viney pieces are kind of going up. So we're going to put it right here. Okay, so see what I mean? They're kind of going up. If I turn this around, they would be kind of hanging more down. I'm going to move these out of the way so I can make sure y'all can see. All right, and then we're going to glue. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. Somebody, the ghost. I sat him in the green. And now I have green on my flowers. This is why you have to be careful if you start putting paint on your table, because that's what happens. All right. It's okay. We can fix it. We can fix it. We can fix it. I'm going to grab, if I had a baby wipe, that would be like perfect. We've already discussed the fact that there's no baby wipes in here. I need to bring a pack in from the other room. So I'm just going to wipe most of the green off and then just kind of come back and see if I can touch this up with a little bit of orange. They look so nice. Okay. All right. I think they're going to be all right. Aye. Okay, now we can glue down our flowers. So however you want, don't overthink it. You certainly don't need to make it look just like the picture. We're going to put one here. I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 flowers over here on our pumpkin guy. And remember, you've got different sizes, different shapes. So just kind of mix them up and kind of, you want them to be kind of clustered together too. I don't think I like that. Let's put that orange one down there. How many am I putting over here? 1, 2, 3, 4, according to the picture. All right. We're going to do those 4 there. And then our ghosty guy, he's going to get 3 flowers kind of down at the bottom on his back end here. So we'll do 1 of each color. We'll do an orange, a white, and a yellow. Just like that. And then the rest of these we're going to just put in the middle here, like a little bouquet. We want them to be pretty close together. I'm going to stack them a little bit because I think that's going to look a little bit better. What do we think? I kind of like that. Pull that guy out a little bit more. Okay. That looks pretty good. Now I have some of these middles, so I'm going to put them on first, and then I'll come back and put paint middles on and the ones I need to paint the middles on. These pieces were so tiny on the laser bed, so we just kind of included whatever we could, and then the rest we can just paint and it'll be fine. Because they're so little. So don't stress about the middles too much if you are missing some or if you lost some when you opened your package. It's fine. I'm going to show you how we're going to work on that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's just set them over to this. Well, let's fix our flowers real quick. So there's a couple, like just my white ones. Get back over here. My white ones that just maybe need a little dot in the middle. I'm just going to use the bottom of my paintbrush and just give those just a little dot in the middle of either the yellow or the orange, whichever one you want to do. That just gives those guys a little center. Okay, and they looked cute without the center too. How stinking adorable is that ghost? Oh my gosh. Guys, this might be one of my new favorites. Okay, here is our house again. Got a few pieces we need to glue on here. So we've got our bats. Yep. Come on. Cooperate with me, glue. We're almost done. All right. And I got a little much on that bat, so I'm just kind of using the other bat to pull some of it off. We're going to just put these guys up here on our moon, like so. And then our little ghosty friends. We're going to put one kind of here and one. I'm looking at it upside down, so I'm kind of having, I need to turn it. I need to turn it. I think he needs to go over here. Okay, there we go. Sorry, y'all. I couldn't, my brain wasn't working there. Okay, and then we get 2 pumpkins here on the porch part of our house. Yeah, I go over there. And then one is going to go on our little ghost friend. So I'm going to put one here. And which other one do I want to use? Maybe this one. Over here. And then this this ghost is going to get one as well. Right down here. Okay. All right. I think we have everything glued. We can set it up. We just have to be careful. You do want to let these lay flat for 24 hours. Just remember that E6000, not a quick set glue. Gonna take some time to dry, but we'll set everything up just so y'all can see it for a hot second, and then I'll lay it all flat so it finishes drying. So here's your base. I need to I'm gonna cover up that green, all that paint I put over there. Okay, so here's our base. The bigger slot is the back, like so. That is where your house sets in. Nope, I lied. That is where your arch sits in. Okay, into that big slot. It's a pretty tight fit so that everything stands up straight. You can decide whether you want to glue these pieces in or whether you want to just be able to move them in and out. You're not going to want to glue the pumpkins and the ghost in because that will keep it from being interchangeable, but you can decide if you want to glue in the arch so that it's constantly one piece. This is a pretty tight fit and I'm pretty happy with the way that looks, so I'm not going to worry about that. I am going to switch y'all around here. And maybe, there we go. I think that's going to be a better angle. Okay, so you can see. Then your house is going to go back here in that back slot, like so. Ooh, everything's not glued, so I'm kind of being careful here. And then your ghost goes on one side, like so. And your pumpkin goes on the other side. Ooh, get in there, like so. And how stinking adorable is that? I love it. Oh, I did not mean to do that. There we go. So cute. I am in love with this. I'm going to let everything lay flat for 24 hours and then it'll be fine to set up. That little guy, he's not quite down in there, but I'm kind of at a strange angle here, so I can't push him down in there right now, but I will. He'll fit down flush inside there later. So anyways, I can't wait to see yours and see what yours looks like. I hope that you're having a fabulous day, and I will talk to y'all real soon. Bye, y'all.